Audio Jungle. Welcome everyone to this afternoon's webinar on industry trends in 2026. Hard to believe, but we are just a few short weeks away from 2026. So to start, I want to thank today's sponsor, Alliance Laundry Systems, and I'm going to turn it over to Randy Ratke to share a few words on Alliance.
Yeah, we're super proud to be a sponsor of CLA. We've had a great relationship with you guys seemingly forever. As Brian Wallace had just mentioned, that we've probably been working together longer than most. But yeah, super proud to be affiliated. Alliance Laundry Systems is the global leader in commercial laundry equipment, and with a vast history dating back well over 115 years. We pride ourselves on building the best commercial laundry equipment in the world and deliver that day in and day out, whether it's the product or bringing new technologies to market. We sell our equipment through two premium brands within North America, within the laundromat sector, Speed Queen and Hipsch, and we sell through independent and company-owned distributors, which are basically your one-stop shop for everything from financing to service to parts. So we're definitely, again, proud to be a premier sponsor.
Thank you. And yes, we really appreciate the support of Alliance and the collaboration. Alliance is one of our elite strategic corporate allies for this year. So before I introduce the panelists and our facilitator, just a couple housekeeping notes. So the webinar is being recorded. You'll receive an email to the YouTube page where the recording will be posted. So if you have to duck out or you want to re-listen, you will have that ability to go back and do that. All right. So with that, we have our panelists. So Randy Ratke, who you have met already from Alliance Laundry Systems. And we are excited to have two of our CLA board members. We have Dennis Diaz from Spinner and Rob Mays from Express Laundry. And our host and facilitator today will be Mr. Brian Wallace, who is the CLA president and CEO. All right. One more thing, I'm sorry. So you can ask your questions if you want to go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will take those near the end of today's program. All right, take it away.
Okay, thank you, Danielle. And thank you, gentlemen, Dennis, Randy, and Rob, a couple of folks I know real well. And if the cameras weren't on, we'd be probably sitting around having a beverage, talking about today's topic, right? Talking about what's going on in the business. So I think the way we can handle this this afternoon for everybody is to have you eavesdrop on hopefully a real stimulating conversation about what's going on in our industry and what we ought to expect as we get into the new year. I'll set the table a little bit. I'll go out on a limb and say that I think we've seen more change in the last 12 months than maybe the 12 years before it combined. It's a really active time in the industry. We just had a year that saw more consolidation, that saw a couple of very successful industry events. I've seen an unprecedented interest from first-time laundromat owners and folks wanting to get into the business. And I'm sure that these are some of the things that are going to shade the conversation as we start to talk about 2026. So not without headwinds, of course. We should be talking about that too. There are some challenges in the present and some that we'll want to contemplate as we plan for the new year. So Rob, as the chair of the board, I guess you get the privilege of first input here, and then we'll work our way around the horn. But in so many words, what do you see ahead for 2026? I wouldn't mind you maybe starting local or micro with your own business, and then maybe talking about how that might be applicable to the rest of the group. Because what Danielle didn't mention that I will is that you are a four-store operator in the Houston market. So I know you're spending a lot of time thinking about what's coming up in the year ahead.
Well, thanks, Brian. It's an honor to be here. I really appreciate it. And just real brief for 10 seconds, I just wanted to comment on how great 2025 was. I know we're going to talk about 2026, but what a great year. And in my mind, nothing complimented 2025 more than the clean show. When I talk to most folks that have been to more than one clean show, most of them have said if it wasn't the best, it was certainly one of the best that the industry's seen in a long time. So hats off, kudos to the CLA for doing a great job contributing to the success of the clean show. I think it speaks for itself. As far as 2026 goes, we're a little bit different in that we're solely owned. My family owns all four laundries, and that's by design. We don't have any partners or anything like that. So for us, leveraging our growth, if you will, has not been a priority, say, as it might be for other folks that have partners or private equity or some of these things. So our approach might be a little different than some other people might be taking. And really, what we're trying to do is we're trying to double down on all the strengths and all the things that we do really well, and we're just trying to emphasize those and perhaps be a little more creative in how we're doing that to stay competitive. I mean, it's quite frankly, the market's gotten more competitive, and that's all good. I'm not saying that I'm afraid of the competition. We have got a lot more people deciding to get in the business for a lot of different reasons. So, in the old days, if you will, if you had a really good location, that alone might ensure the success of your laundry. If it was, it's kind of like if you have a snack vending machine in an office building and you're the only competition in the office building, you're probably going to do pretty well with that location. But of course, even snack machines in office buildings now have other competition with DoorDash or other delivery services and so on that maybe, people eating in their office maybe didn't have 5 years ago. So we're trying to do the same thing with our business. We're trying to double down on a lot of things we're doing. And I would say as we look forward to 2026, we're trying to work harder at marketing, for example, not only with leveraging our locations and the business we have to offer, but in some of the services we have to offer. And then also, it used to be if you had a Google business listing, that was probably good enough in terms of other people trying to find your business. But now you almost really have to leverage that as well. So those are some of the things we're looking at as we go into 2026, is how we can kind of double down on what we're doing, but leverage it through marketing and advertising as an example.
And Rob, maybe just a quick follow-up, if you don't mind sharing, what do you, in a few words, what do you think are those strengths that you feel like you ought to be doubling down at Laundry Express of Texas?
So for us, as the name implies, with Express Laundry, one of the primary benefits that we sell is convenience and time. So we offer a way for our customers to literally get in and out of the laundry in 1 hour if they want to do that in terms of washing and drying their clothes. And that's why we have the name Express in it. But more than that, Express Laundry, just to focus on our brand, is actually part of a national brand. We trademarked the name through Continental Girbau. We buy their equipment. And so it's part of a national brand. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity later on to talk about that a little bit more. But I think branding is going to be even more critical going forward as one of the ways that you can differentiate your business from, I mentioned a few minutes ago, more competition. And, if you have a brand, if you can leverage that, I think that's one of the ways you can differentiate yourself.
That's awesome. No, thanks, Rob. And Dennis, Rob was leaning into branding there. So I know that starts to, click some boxes for you. But from where you sit as not just a innovator when it came to, creating laundromat marketing programs for your clients, but now also working with, some of the consolidation that we're seeing in the distribution side of the business. You've got a unique perspective, store owners, distributors, and manufacturers. So when you look ahead to 2026, what are the couple of things that come to your mind first?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me and for everyone watching this. Yeah, so really I started, in the laundry industry on the financing side, right? And working directly with laundromat owners. And really that experience shaped how I see small business ownership. that pressure, right? The risk and how often owners are making big decisions without much margin of error, right? And later building that spinner, the laundry marketing company focused on helping those owners grow. And when we were acquired by EVI, now we get a chance to work across the industry, helping operators think more clearly about how to build strong, long-lasting businesses. And I was in a store recently where an owner said something that stuck with me. He said, uh, when one machine goes down, and Rob, you could probably attest to this, right? When one machine goes down, the whole place feels it, right? And that's exactly where the industry is heading, right? As more owners are considering multi-store operations, laundromats are becoming more like logistics businesses, right? What matters most is how smoothly everything runs. When machines are working, customers are happy, right? When they're not, trust disappears fast. And the owners pulling ahead are the ones building stores that run well day in, day out, not just reacting when something breaks. And that's a big trend right now.
Well, and I'd argue, following up on that, Dennis, that one of the things I think we could all take some pride in, including those watching today, is that the bar has been raised, right? So customer expectations are higher than they were before, and so I do think that if you're in a crowded market, and a lot of our members are in crowded markets. I was with Rob week before last, and there's an awful lot of stores popping up in Houston, Texas. I know that for sure. And so that's what he's talking about, doubling down and trying to create that better experience. And Randy, you mentioned a moment ago kind of the different ways that you touch the market through Alliance, a couple of interesting ways. What are some of the things that you're hearing from your clients and your colleagues when it comes to looking ahead to the new year?
Yeah, I echo a lot of what we've already heard, and it's driving off of that customer experience. I think our customers expect more than even 15 or 20 years ago. I think we cater to a demographic that we like to think is transient, right? Like you are in an apartment here and you move to another apartment, and we lose that customer. But I think what we're driving is the expectation that if they had a great experience at a laundromat in their previous town or the previous city, and when they move, that expectation's high again, right? They're going to seek out a laundromat that delivers everything that they're looking for. So what we're hearing on our side is what can we do as an equipment manufacturer, as a technology company, to number one, deliver that customer experience, but number two, remove any friction points that stand in the way of delivering that. From a payment standpoint, a friction point for that laundromat owner that, like Dennis said, allows them to scale their business, but still never lose touch of it if I'm a multi-store owner. So it's customer experience, it's driving technology solutions that are going to deliver ROI and really bring it to the next level.
Yeah, no, it's a great way to start off, gentlemen. And if I'm kind of taking notes and thinking this through as listening to the three of you, I mean, I think we do a lot worse than looking at 2026 in part as an opportunity to further improve the laundromat customer experience, right? I mean, I think that is a worthy goal, a worthy objective, and a lot of the things that we're going to talk about next, maybe kind of getting a little bit more into the weeds, I think could all be contributing to that. So, the I guess one of the things I pulled out of that conversation beyond the experience, or part of the experience, is that selling speed. I always think that that's one of the things that probably gets overlooked a bit in terms of getting people in and out. And I love this notion of doubling down. We should all be doubling down on what we do best as we go into the new year. And so, Randy, I think, maybe starting back with you and working my way back around, one of the categories that we wanted to address here in the conversation specifically was technology. And again, you alluded to a couple of those things, but I wonder if you could elaborate a bit more on what you see ahead in terms of laundromat owners being in a position to embrace technology to try to deliver on that promise.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the areas that we've seen tremendous progress in is cashless payment, right? I think again, if we were having this conversation even just 10 years ago, you'd have a lot of folks on this call saying my customers will never embrace. We're always going to be a cash, we're always going to be coin. But delivering payment solutions, cashless payment solutions that are going to work for laundromat owners, that are going to allow them to maximize their return on investment in that. But as I look at technology, it's not a panacea, right? Like what works for one laundromat owner isn't going to work for another. So I think the approach needs to be mindful of that return on investment and investigating what do my customers want? How can I deliver it at a high level? And is this in tune to how I want to run my business? We're seeing things like a scan, pay, wash. We've talked a lot about that at the Clean Show, and we're seeing tremendous support for that product, which again removes a friction point for folks who maybe want to pay with a credit card but don't want to sign up for an app. Maybe it's that customer that's only visiting the store once in a while. So again, we're developing those products that are going to meet specific needs within the industry, remove those friction points, and then ideally, customer experience.
Oh, I love that. And Dennis, when I think about technology, part of my brain goes to back to marketing, right? Because we've got so many more of our members that are, embracing, whether it be SEO or optimizing their Google listing or understanding the impact of social content. So when I say, technological innovations for the new year, do any of those things related to marketing resonate with you?
Yeah, so regarding that, right, I usually say this after someone regrets a purchase, right? You didn't need more tools, right? You needed
Yeah.
clear goals, right? Um, so here's the rule you're watching, right? Don't just buy something unless it does at least one of these. It's going to help the customer move faster, right? It's going to keep the machines running. Uh, it's going to lower your monthly bills, bring people back more often, make staffing easier, and always look at how it fits into your whole operation, not just one problem. And I think a lot of people attack marketing solutions disjointly, right? They are looking at aspects of social influence, which is great, brand awareness, great. But you have to really measure it back to clear goals for your business and what are the true KPIs that you're looking to measure on the business side, right? Those holistic goals are great, but you need to really focus on aligning sales, marketing, and having that constant flywheel happening, right? Where it's returning a real tangible item to your business.
So I love that. You talk about keeping machines running, lowering your bills, having, building recurring customer business, staffing, and then having the clear goals and KPIs. So give me an example of what maybe some better operators might be looking at in terms of KPIs. What are the things that you think that they're measuring or you're helping them measure if they're marketing clients of yours?
Yeah, so I mean, the real basic one there, Brian, is if you have payment systems in your store, right? And you're looking to keep those machines running, like one of those KPIs are, right? Make sure that you have clear insight into who's signing up, who's coming into your store, making sure that you turn your attendance on collecting, supporting data so that way you can match it back to the marketing that you're doing online. The easiest thing I can think of right now is either an email or a phone number, right? Try to align some of those metrics or data fields to those metrics. I think that's going to be the most simple example there, Brian.
Okay. No, I think that's super helpful. And Rob, you mentioned right off the top the impact of the Clean Show just a few months ago, and Part of the probably the loudest chatter that I heard at the Clean Show was around technology and new technology on the show floor. And while we're brand agnostic, of course, we just love to see this kind of the aggregate of all that cool stuff happening on the show floor. So when you think about technology, so either based on what you saw at the show or maybe some things that you might be planning to take advantage of in your own operations, what does technology in 2026 look like to you?
Well, I'm sure we're going to talk about this a lot more, but I can't wait to talk about it, and that's AI. I'm
Go for it.
really
Yeah.
excited as a store owner who owns four stores, how AI can help the business. And this is, I won't say uncharted territory. That's probably not accurate, but hopefully by now everybody's been exposed to AI in some way, shape, or form. But I was just listening as an example to a podcast a couple days ago. It was not laundry related. It was about real estate actually. And the person was talking about how they used AI to go through their insurance policy, which, if anybody in the business knows, is about as thick as a telephone book and not exactly the most engaging reading in the world. And AI read it for them and identified in a matter of a minute, somewhere around there, certain deficiencies with their policy in terms of where they were perhaps overcovered or undercovered. And I thought, wow, what a great way to use something like AI to help a business owner. Because how do I want to say this? As a small business owner, it's hard enough to compete as a small business owner, but when you have all these other requirements of running your business that are a requirement, like being insured or following the proper labor laws or whatever. Boy, what a relief. Yeah, I mean, I remember when it was really cool that there were all these different, the cloud was out there so that you could do cloud-based accounting and cloud-based POS systems and so on, and how that evened the playing field for small businesses. All of a sudden we had a system that was every bit as good as what IBM or somebody else had, like, that had built one for 50 years, a legacy system. Well, I think AI is going to be another equalizer. I think it's going to help everybody notch up another whole level of being able to help run their businesses. So, non-laundry related, I'm really excited about how AI can help people run their business. And I think honestly, I see Dennis shaking his head. I think honestly, we don't really know yet. Okay, I mean, it's such a new technology, and there's so many different ways that you might be able to embrace it and use it. So that would certainly be one. And just to finish Randy's thought, he was talking about alternative payment systems. We've our oldest laundry is now 15 years old, almost 16 years old, and we've had alternative payment systems, including a card system, that whole time. And to put that in perspective, Randy, when we first started out, we got about 25% of our revenue for self-service via credit card payment for card systems, and today it's almost 70%. But I also want to point out that we're not card only in the sense that we do have alternative forms of payment for our customers, and that's as a marketing person by background, I like to give my customers choices. We believe it or not, we still have a couple of top loaders in each of our laundries because we do have some customers that like and prefer those for various different reasons. And the same thing, if a customer comes in our laundry, yeah, we have the ability to offer them a card system as a way to pay, but they also, if they come in with a shoebox full of quarters, for example, we have a way to accommodate them as well to help them make the shift over eventually to the card system. So, um, yeah, it's interesting, and you're right, Randy. I can remember when we first started out. I think we were one of the first card stores in Houston, and I have different folks from all over, all walks of life, telling me how the card system went work. And then you heard what Dennis mentioned a minute ago, how you can potentially leverage that now through loyalty programs or targeted marketing, where you're specifically, using their phone number or email. That's just another whole dimension to the game out there now. And to stay competitive, I would argue if you're not doing it now, you're probably going to have to, whether it's a year, 2 years, or whatever, you're going to have to remain competitive and relevant.
Yeah, well, in broaching the important topic of AI, I got to give Randy and Dennis a chance to chime in. So, Randy, how about you first on the changing landscape with AI? Really, I mean, obviously, it's going to is affecting our whole lives, but that little sliver that is the laundry business. What are you anticipating coming next? Then I'll let Dennis add to it.
Yeah, I mean, I can give you an answer now, and when we hang up the call, that answer will be different. That's how quickly things are changing. Uh, but I think it drives into probably how Dennis is going to answer. I think how you market is going to change because you're so much more agile and understanding how individual customers navigate your store, when they do it, how they do it, like all those types of insights are going to just be aggregated quicker, and you'll be able to respond more quickly, obviously, with them. I think we haven't even really gotten into systems. Can I automate certain things using AI based upon how and when customers are interacting with my store and save money that way? It's a wild card. And I think, to Rob's point, if you're not leveraging some element of AI or technology, you're missing out. And I say this as a late adopter myself. I had to prove it out on my own, even things like uh, chat and things like that. It's here to stay. It's going to continue to move and move quickly. But if you have systems that are smart in one area, laundromats, it's going to move even quicker. So I think it's going to be exciting to see how it shakes down and how much laundromat owners individually, what their comfort level is with leveraging it.
Well, a couple things it makes me think of is what are we going to see at Clean 2027? So I think that 2 years is going to be like 20 years in the lifespan of just this one technology. And Dennis, Rob mentioned reading leases. I was at an association mastermind just 2 weeks ago, and just part of my mindset has to get around like, what are the capabilities? Well, what are the things that you can put into that to be analyzed? And that was an eye opener for me about associations putting in membership data or even P&Ls and asking for our insights and observations. So, from where you sit with AI, what are some things that you think we can be, like your prior answer about marketing, like how can we sort of not be overwhelmed by AI, and what are some of the things that are going to be impacting our business in the new year?
Yeah, and this is a great one, right? Because it's really about well, it's really just about behavior shifts, right? Happening right now. We're no longer calling SEO search engine optimization, right? We're calling it search everywhere optimization. And it's no longer SEO, believe it or not, is GEO, right? Generative engine optimization. So when we're talking about this, right, I hear from customers all the time, right? I just really don't have time, right? And the fastest growing group of customers isn't looking, for the cheapest option, right? They want the easiest one, which is what makes AI so incredible. Gone are the days where you had to go to the library, look up a category of books and read every book until you get the answer. You just get the answer, right? So busy families, professionals, you got your caregivers, so small business owners just want their laundry handled for them, right? So this is the immediate gratification world. So for owners watching, right, the shift is really simple. It ties back to stop talking about your laundry and start talking about time saved and stress removed. If that's anything you're learning from AI, is that the behavior of the customer is more immediate and they're looking for something more immediate.
Yeah, and I think whether you're running an association, a manufacturer, a laundromat, start talking to AI about how you're being seen, and what that AI says about your business, and it's not the same as what SEO might have to say, and it can be a humbling experience, and but an important one to make sure that you're feeding in that knowledge base with the things you want folks to know about your business. Rob, just one more thing on technology that came out of the Clean Show, because you mentioned automation. You want to take a little bit deeper dive there? I know you've done, like, even in your small commercial business, you've used some automation with the flat work ironer, and I was just in another store when I was in Houston last week with a towel folder and stacker. What are some things that you think are going to be practical in helping the average laundromat owner when it comes to automation in the new year?
Sure. So let me just take one step back, Brian, and that is
Sure.
if you're going to be competitive in the laundry business, we assume everything is getting more competitive. One of the ways that you can do that is by leveraging the assets that you have and getting a higher return on investment. Okay, that might be one way. So you may have a certain portion of your business be self-service that walks in the door, and you might have some that be pickup and delivery and so on. And then for us, it really goes back almost to day one when we started out 15 years ago, being able to leverage our assets to target specific commercial business has always been a key part of our business model. And yes, if there are certain ways that you can use technology to differentiate yourself and offer certain services that maybe other businesses can't, then that really should be something that you might want to look at. But I really, it used to be, I think, commercial was kind of a convenience that maybe some laundries offered to certain commercial customers that might literally walk in the door. That's how we got our first commercial account, I'll be honest. They literally walked in the door and
Walk right in.
we saw a whole bunch of white stuff. In this case, it was a massage business that brought in a bunch of towels, and literally the masseuses were washing the towels. And we said, "Hey, we can do that for you." And I got a big hug. And that's how we got our very first commercial account. But it's changed, right? It's gotten a lot more competitive. You've got to go out and find those accounts. But that's the other thing is that laundromats tend to be smaller and nimbler. So when you're competing in the commercial market, the big guys, the mega factories, if you will, tend to have economy of scale, and it's very hard for us to compete that way. But one of the ways that we can compete is by offering a higher level or degree of service. So it's not all just technology and how you leverage technology, but I would argue it's also how you leverage the service and your ability to take care of the customer. And you say, well, gosh, that sounds really intuitive. But think about it. So if I use like the train analogy, okay? If the train comes into your town once a day and takes you to wherever you need to go, as long as you can accommodate that schedule and move with the same schedule that the train has, then it works really well, okay? Because you're not going to be able to drive from point A to point B the same cost that the train is with all the passengers it's going to take. The trick is you have to be able to accommodate that schedule. So if you can fit into that regimen, if you will, then it can work really well. But the first time you deviate from that for whatever reason and you miss the train, then it becomes a little more painful to get from point A to point B, right? And now you're scrambling and trying. Well, that's where the real value, I would argue, that the laundromat provides is that we can provide that level of service that maybe the big mega factory or train can't. And so that's what we really try to do is we try to really outservice. I call it babying. We try to baby those commercial accounts. Yes, we have routes, we have schedules and so on, but if they call us up 10 o'clock on a Saturday night, you know who's going to be answering the phone? It'll be me. And we probably can figure out a way to accommodate them and take care of them. So it's not only leveraging technology, but leveraging that service that maybe some of the bigger guys can't offer.
Yeah, and I think that, that is a good entree into another topic that we wanted to cover together this afternoon, which is just the myriad of business models that are broken out across the industry. And you're an example, Rob, right, of a multi-store operation, and you're doing small commercial. You're not doing residential delivery, right?
Correct.
And so there's nothing wrong with that. That's you're playing to your strengths and what your equipment, and your time, for that matter, can accommodate. So, Dennis, what are your observations and what are your sort of look aheads for next year when it comes to, it's getting hard to fit all the different models on one page now between in terms of what the traditional laundromat was up to. So, what are your insights when it comes to these variations on a theme that we continue to see in our business?
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people who are watching would probably agree with this. So I met an owner who said self-service keeps the lights on, right? Everything else is where the real growth is. And that's really the shift. And Rob hit on it. Self-service is still super important, right? But it's no longer the whole business. Growth comes from adding, the services, the wash, refold, pickup delivery, commercial accounts, subscriptions, especially with real estate and locations becoming really difficult to grab, right? If you're planning ahead, the real question isn't which one do I choose? It's how many ways can this store actually make money, right? The strongest operators build flexibility into their business early. You see it from the self-service side, the vending machines, all the other add-ons, the over-the-counter sales. that from a self-service standpoint has always been true to the business. Now we have all these technologies to advance our footprint with the same location, right? So that's a big opportunity, Brian. It's a matter of maybe, you're looking to grow, but you can't find that other location. There's some services that we could learn and add on, maybe some equipment that we could purchase to help us do more towels and linens, right? A folder in the store, right? So there's those expansion opportunities out there.
Yeah, these business models, I mean, it's crazy. Like, again, plenty of our members excel strictly on a self-service basis. Some have added drop-off, meaning walk in. Some have added delivery. Some are doing small commercial. Some are doing large commercial. We've seen members that have graduated into building their own production plants. I mean, it's just, it's just kind of a crazy thing. So Randy, as a manufacturer and having some in-house distribution also, how do you all think about, this proliferation of models and how you can best serve them in 2026 and beyond?
I think one of the key areas that we look at as a company is we're we're now kind of forced to integrate with systems, other systems, pickup and delivery systems, wash, dry, fold
Mm.
systems that might not be bottled within our own. So we look at quote unquote open architecture, which allows your machines to be started through uh, the systems that people are married to them, right? Like, so I don't want to cobble anything together. I just want them to talk and work. So what we've seen is really that need developed fairly quickly for open architecture for our systems to speak to the ones that the folks that are very active in commercial wash, dry, fold, pickup, and delivery are using. Um, so it definitely keeps us on our toes. And I think as we look at, you know, what models, what types of um, applications are be successful, we might not have seen them yet. I mean, wash, dry, fold, and pick up and delivery, they're not going anywhere. Commercial accounts aren't going anywhere. But I mean, even 15 years ago, you didn't see flatwork ironers, you didn't see folders, you didn't laundromat owners were never talking about these types of things, and now they're coming up fairly regular conversation. So us as a manufacturer definitely keeps us on our toes on what we need to do to make, again, remove a friction point, make sure that systems talk together, that allow laundromat owners to be productive and utilize that asset, right? Rob mentioned, you have an asset that you've paid for. How can you get the most out of it? And that's where we come in to make sure it's as seamless as possible.
Yeah, I think that sometimes our manufacturer and service provider members probably don't get enough credit for allowing for these system integrations and open architecture. I had an opportunity to visit a couple of the um, you know, payment system manufacturers over the course of this year. And I kind of see this boneyard with your machines and the other guy's machines, and there's wires hanging out, and there's just this whole process of, okay, we need to make sure our stuff works with their stuff. And as you look at the number of providers in the market, it's just an exponential amount of combinations that have to be accommodated through those platforms. So I always get a kick out of seeing that. Kind of the real gritty behind the scenes part of it is how are we going to make all this stuff work together, whether it be, again, the wash, dry, fold management platforms, the store management platforms, and the different payment systems along the way. So, folks, as I look at the clock, we're two-thirds of our way in. It goes fast. We got 20 minutes or so to go. I just want to remind everyone of a couple things that Danielle brought up at the top, which is one, that we are recording, so you're going to be able to look back on this and share some of those insights. But I also wanted to highlight the fact that she invited you to share your questions in the chat. So I'm going to be keeping one eye on that as we get a little bit closer to our close time. But we do have a couple of real great topics left to cover here. So just wanted to give you that reset. Next up, next thing I want to talk about, Rob, and you and I have talked about this any number of times off the clock, is the impact of the interest from new investors, the new entrants in the market, whether they be private equity or franchisors. the scarcity of locations, and some of these other challenges that are and opportunities for that matter that are coming through the we just call it the new interest in the business. All of a sudden, we're the hot commodity, we're the thing that's generating a lot of interest. So, what do you think that impact is going to have on how 2026 looks?
So I think I just got I get emails. I kid you not, just about every day from somebody that wants to express an interest in buying my laundry or whatever. Or I saw a post on Facebook again. I think it was last night or the night before last. Hey, I'm new to Houston. I'm looking for a mentor. I want to get in the business. Blah blah blah. So it just doesn't. I suppose a good old-fashioned recession or whatever might slow things down. But absent that, I just don't see anything that's going to stop the momentum that the industry has right now. And I would argue that it's a good thing, okay? Because if you're good at what you do, if you have a good model, the extra interest is, in my opinion, is only going to drive the value of your businesses even higher. So as long as you can stay competitive, stay relevant, stay in the game, I think in the long run you're going to do well. I think where it becomes an issue is if you have a marginal business or a marginal business model, it might be more of a risk. And I don't know if you're leaning towards me talking about branding right now, but I think that's
Go
going to
ahead. Go
be
right ahead.
I think that's going to be one of the key differentiators going forward. And it could be a regional brand if you're a multi-store owner, or it could be a national brand. Okay. I'm not a branding expert, but I grew up in the 70s back when all the fast food hamburger franchises were first coming out, like Wendy's, Burger King, McDonald's, and so on. And if you think about it, today there's probably one of each on every corner in America. If they're not, they're probably pretty close. And so if there's three, hamburger choices right next to each other, how are you going to decide whether you pick one versus the other two? And I would argue that branding would have a lot to do with that. And branding doesn't have to be just the logo or the sort of advertising or marketing that you use. It could also be how you choose to run your business. And I would argue, whether people want, in the laundry business want to admit it or not, they already have a brand by virtue of how they're currently choosing to run their business. So the question is, do you want to try to leverage that and somehow make it better known in the marketplace so that, when somebody's trying to decide between you or a competitor down the street or across the street even, hopefully you can leverage that brand to do that. And so, just as an example, like in burgers, Burger King, I remember have it your way and hold the pickles, hold the lettuce type commercials. That was their
Yeah.
way, and they were charbroiled. Remember, they were charbroiled versus fried, and Wendy's had where's the beef, and there are all these different ways that they were trying to differentiate their business. And okay, I'm not saying that laundromats need to start advertising, but there are ways that we can differentiate our business and leverage our brand so that when somebody's trying to decide which one to use, hopefully they'll pick yours. And in our case, we have multiple stores. We're not a big national brand, but we do have 3 of our 4 stores are branded with the same brand name. And I would argue that you're able to leverage that brand across your multiple locations. So if you have somebody in one part of town that maybe is familiar with your brand, and let's say they move across town to another side of town where you have another one of your stores, they're going to remember the one that they had where they were living, and they'll gravitate to your brand when they move across town or wherever your other store may be. And I think it's invaluable. Just to finish that thought, if you have just picture, if you will, here, try if you have 3 stores and they're all within, let's say, 10 miles of each other. If you think about it, instead of having one store with a 1 mile or a 3 mile radius around that store, by having 3 stores that are 10 miles apart, you might have a 30-mile radius around your
Mm-hmm.
3 stores, if you follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would argue that it's a lot easier to stay relevant and competitive in a 30-mile radius than it is in a 1 or 3 mile radius, because you only have to draw from a smaller portion of that market to still be successful, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I love how one of the refrains that we're touching on here is branding and differentiation, because I do think that that's going to be a big part of what's going to impact the market next year. So Dennis, how are you thinking about scale and consolidation and multi-store and Because again, you've got a couple of hats that are very relevant to that between the EVI group and how you're helping people market through Spinner. So, are we going to see a, a a 500 store operator down the road or a 100 store operator down the road? Is just it seems like every conversation I'm having is about consolidating and rolling up the business.
Yeah, Brian. In order to make that happen, right, I think that we need to have operators, and it's going to kind of tie into what Rob was saying about experience, right?
Mhm.
And you have to really be able to scale experience. And that's been a really difficult thing to do from a corporate, conglomerate trying to do it, right? You need the
Mhm.
small owner operator to be in the store in order to do this, right? So I once walked into a laundromat with a first time customer, right? And she stopped at the door and said, I don't even know where to start, right? And
Right.
in that moment is everything, right? Your customer isn't comparing you to another laundromat, right? They're comparing you to the nicest place they've been to recently. That could be a hotel, it could be a gym, it could be a coffee shop. And that comparison happens in the first 5 minutes, right? So when someone walks in, they're asking, do I feel welcome? Do I feel safe? And do I immediately know what to do, right? If there's confusion right away, trust drops, your brand drops, right? Even if the machines are great. So for owners watching right now, right, this is about designing the space on purpose, right? Clear signs, open sight lines, easy payment, a store that quietly says that you're in the right place and this is going to be easy, right? And if you could scale that in addition to having standard operating processes that are simple for your labor to understand and to repeat when there's turnover, I think that is the key to this massive scale, right? And this is why it's such a touchy topic with franchises, right? It's they offer the SOPs, they offer a lot of that training and a lot of that repeatable process that makes this all work, right? But the individual store owner operator can easily do this as well.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And Randy, having not only chatted with you over at Alliance, but a couple of your executive leadership over the course of this year, I know you guys are thinking a lot about your role in helping support those that are trying to, scale up on store operation and consolidate the business. So when you think about multi-store management and consolidation, what does that mean to you all for the new year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's another flavor, right? I think are we going to have owners that have 100, 200 stores? I think it's a possibility, but it's just another flavor. Is that because Burger King comes to town, does that mean that the guy that has a taco shop down the street goes belly up? It doesn't, because they're both providing a service that people want, and if they're both doing it at a high level, they're both going to be successful. Um, but I think the technology is there, right? I think that was the missing link for a number of years was if I'm not in my store or I can't count on my attendant to be trustworthy, they were handling money, I really can't scale. It's out of sight, out of mind, and that's problematic for owners. With things going cashless now, with systems, I can remote start a machine from anywhere in the world. The technology is leading in that direction. So I think it's more possible today than it ever was. But again, I think as you look at franchise, it's another option, but it's not for everybody. I think the average owner needs to focus on everything that Dennis hit on, walking in that customer's shoes from the moment they come in the store. And I think as we look at what I can do to set my store apart. We talked about AI, we talked about technology, we talked about, upgrading machinery. But the stuff that you can do for free, are my attendants briefed to greet people when they come in the store? Do they remember names? All of those types of things are the intangibles that are going to make a store successful, whether it's a franchise, whether it's an independent. So not overlooking the technology is exciting and all these different ways we can accept payment is very exciting, but not overlooking there's still a human element, right? Like we go to places where we feel
Yeah.
welcome, where we know a face, and that is never going to go away. And I think that ultimately is going to determine your success in the marketplace more than even some of the technology.
Yeah, well, that's certainly a reminder when I make store visits, including visiting two of Rob's stores a couple of weeks ago, is that we tend to, again, look at things on a big scale when really it's just what's happening in that neighborhood. And the way you're taking care of those customers is probably the biggest differential. Rob, one of the things we had on our list to talk about was, sort of evaluating the reinvesting in the business. Obviously, we've got plenty of new equipment out there. We got a lot of new things that are available at the marketplace. Certainly, have had a lot of conversations the last month or so about bonus depreciation, having come back up to 100%. I know that that's on a lot of radars as people scramble to buy equipment. So, what advice would you give when it comes to whether or not to, reinvest in the business in 2026?
So of course the big thing that all small business owners look at, Brian, is return on investment. So you got to make sure
Mm-hmm.
that the ROI is there and that it's worth it. I suppose you might spend money for defensive reasons. If you're in a super competitive market, you may decide that to differentiate your business, you just have to spend more money. So that might be another factor. And then I think a trend that you're going to start to see more of, maybe not yet in 2026, but it's definitely coming, is if you believe in this whole AI wave that we've been talking about, you're going to have all these data centers being built to provide all this wonderful AI, right? And they consume a lot of electricity. And so, as a store owner who consumes a lot of utilities, I'm really concerned in the next few years about, we've already seen water rates go up quite a bit depending on where you're located. Natural gas, as we know, tends to fluctuate all over the place. Um, you know, something is, even the Ukrainian war has affected natural gas pricing to some degree. But the big X factor is what on earth are all these data centers if they all get built? I think there's some concern, speculation that they may not all get built. But if a lot of them do, it's going to have a significant impact on electricity rates, I think, going forward. In fact, here in Texas, energy is deregulated. My daughter just built her first house and had to sign her first electricity contract, and I told her to book it out as far as she could. So she got a 3-year deal on her electricity because I have a hunch 3 years from now the electricity is going to be a lot more than what we're paying today.
Yeah, so trying to look at ROI through the lens of higher utility costs. If I
Yep.
look back on my 30, whatever it is, 33 years in the business, I can absolutely see a replacement cycle tied to the cost of utilities. When we saw natural gas spike in '05 and '06 and in '09, and it's been pretty quiet since, and now we're starting to see that come up. I have no doubt that could drive some more activity, particularly when it comes to dryer replacement. Um, so we're getting to the point where I need to kind of get to the wrap up here. So, if I could go to each of you just for a quick capsule on this last question on our list about steps that you can take and as store owners to prepare to be successful in the new year. So, any list bits of advice as we go into the new year? I'll start with you, Dennis.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Yeah, um, I've seen. I usually talk to store owners who come to me, and I evaluate their business, right? And I hear a lot of store owners, interesting enough, saying that they have stores that are packed on all day, right, and are still barely making money, right?
Mm.
Um, and that's a warning sign, right? And Rob touched on it. Costs are rising, utilities, rent, labor. And the big takeaway is this, right? Being busy doesn't mean you're doing well. But stores that keep costs under control, run smoothly, are the ones that are going to be healthy long term, right? So if hearing owners say, I wish I had done this sooner, not a lot of people ever said, I wish I waited, right? You'd drive yourself crazy if that happens,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah. Mhm.
if you're watching and wondering where to focus, right? Design your space with intention. Build systems that make your life easier. Think beyond today, right? Think about how this business should work year after year. Entrepreneurship is hard, right? But it gets easier when you build something that runs well and supports you back.
Mhm. Mhm. I love that. Well, I've got one question here in the chat, and I'll let any of you just want to jump in if you want to answer it. Does the panel see a community hub within laundromats, cafes, workspaces, community events? That I know that resonates probably with all three of us. So who wants to tackle that question about community hub within the laundromat? Just go ahead and jump in.
I mean, I think laundry cares kind of sums that up, right? Like these aren't just businesses, these are places where people gather, and it transcends business. I think anything you do to be part of the community that you're doing business in, whether you're a laundromat or any kind of business, and people feel comfortable gathering there within reason, obviously, I think is a good thing. But obviously, you are a member of that community, and it comes with a little bit of responsibility to give back and be open to that.
And it happens to be good for business, right?
It
When you
happens to
are
be good for business as well, for
when
sure.
you're engaged with that. So, gentlemen, I really appreciate all these insights. If I look at my scribbles here, and I'm sure people at home, I'm talking about everything from doubling down, maximizing the current footprint, customer solutions and experience. Of course, I'm not going to forget the analogy, a differentiation through hamburgers, the difficulty in scaling experience, some new acronyms that I have, Dennis, self-service pays the bills, system integrations, open architecture, and Rob really helping us focus on the ROI of any new investments. So thank you, gentlemen. Danielle, I know you've got a few things to help us wrap up our conversation.
Yes, thank you. Um, so in the last couple minutes, I just wanted to share some of our upcoming events. There we go. All right, so we've started to put together our calendar for 2026, and CLA hosts, besides the virtual event you're on today, we do host some face-to-face events to allow you to kind of get together and share ideas, like some of the things talked about today. So one of them is our Connect Live events, which are held in cities across the US. They are more local events, 2-hour events, typically dinner, some drinks, and just networking. So here are the ones that are coming up right after the first of the year. We have a couple in Florida, one in Southern California, and one in Charlotte. We're continuing to build out the calendar. So if you go to this link at the bottom, you'll see more of those events as we get them confirmed. We also have our premiere event next year. So no clean next year. Instead, CLA is hosting our Excellence in Laundry event. It'll be May 5th through the 7th. We're having it in lovely Hilton Head Island, South Carolina. So not only is it some premier speakers, some of it will be more business strategy, innovation, lots of networking opportunities, but it's also at a beautiful 5-star resort that if you have some extra time for golf or swim, or it's right on the ocean, which is where our welcome reception will be. So you can find more information at this link. Registration is open, and if it's something you're thinking of doing, we do offer an early bird registration, which will save you a little bit of money, and that ends January 31st. So in conjunction with the Excellence in Laundry, a few years ago, we started the Excellent Women in Laundry. We're starting to see more and more women entering the industry. So we've created the Women's Laundry Network, which allows women the opportunity to connect with each other. So we do this event on May 5th. So it's the day before Excellence officially starts, and a full day where we bring in some speakers. And again, probably the part that the attendees like the most is the networking together, and it will be in the same location. So May 5th, all day, Excellent Women in Laundry, and then that night starts Excellence in Laundry reception, and then 2 days of excellence. So if it's something you're interested in doing both, we do offer some bundled packages that will save you a little money on attending both of those. All right. Well, with that, thank you, Rob, Dennis, Randy, Brian, for today's program. Lots of good information. As I mentioned at the beginning, this was recorded. You'll get an email that'll send you the link to our YouTube channel where this is posted, so you can rewatch it, share if you would like. I hope that you all have wonderful holidays and hope to see you at some of the CLA events in 2026. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Danielle.
Audio Jungle.